we're going to welcome a man who played over. Can you just get my little book? Sorry, I've got my assistant here. Who's passing my little book because I like to make notes as we're going along. He played, he made 195 appearances for West Ham across 6 years, scored 18 goals. In my words, the last true winger in the truest sense that West Ham ever had. It's Mr. Matty Etherington. He says, there he is. Hey, how you doing, Matt?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, mate?
Very well, thank you. An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. It's really, really nice of you, and I appreciate your time doing this, man. We'll have a giggle. Obviously,
always.
Yeah, always, particularly with West Ham. Basically, the whole idea of what we do is to find out more about your experience at West Ham. Obviously, I've seen you on Hammer's Chat and things like that, but it's always great to talk to you firsthand, and hopefully we'll have a few questions at the end and stuff like that as well. And we've got the prize raffle, everybody, so make sure you donate. We're over 9,000 quid, so let's get to 10,000 by the end of talking to Matty. It'd be lovely. Thank you very much for Iron supporting feedback. Matty, obviously, 6 years at West Ham, almost 200 appearances. How did it all begin? How did the track? Because obviously you joined in we just got relegated, and then you joined us. What was the story behind that the transfer?
It was a weird one, to be honest with you. I've been at Spurs for 3.5 years, and things weren't working out. So West Ham come in for me. They wanted Freddie Canute. So it was basically kind of a swap deal with Freddie going the other way, and a bit of money on top of Freddie, obviously, because he was a better player than me at that time. So once I knew West Ham were involved, it was a no-brainer for me. West Ham were in the Championship at the time, just got relegated, and I jumped at the chance. See, it was across the road in many respects, so to speak, and I wanted to stay in London. I love London. I was embracing the area, and that's how it came about.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. From Tottenham to West Ham, it's not massive.
It was strange.
Yeah, but it's not.
Go on, sorry.
No, I was about to say it's not like a massive, geographically massive as well. I live in Essex, and so it's just as quick to me to get to West Ham as it is to get to Tottenham, and so at least your family would stay in the same place.
Yeah, when you live in certain areas, I was living in Waltham Abbey at the time, and of course there's no distance really, no difference in the way you go to training times or go to the stadium. So it worked well for me. And I spoke to Glenn Roeder, who was manager at the time. I went to his house and spoke to him, and unfortunately 3 or 4 months later he left the club. But when I spoke to him at his house, he was brilliant. He was fantastic, and it just felt like the right move at the right time. And in the end, it worked out. It was the right move.
Was you not a little bit because obviously we'd just been relegated, and so it was like. Obviously, you're at Tottenham, where he was Premier League. He's going to the Championship. Were you obviously confident that West Ham had enough to bounce back, basically?
Of course, I did. And the first day I went to the stadium to sign, I knew how big the club was, and that is it's genuine. It was you could tell by the drive down Green Street and just the drive down surrounding areas. I make sure I drove down surrounding areas afterwards, and the club was huge. And you could tell that. It's going into the stadium and the Bobby Moore stand, etc. The chicken run, as it was used to call. It was just a stadium steeped in history, with unbelievable players that have gone through that football club, and it just felt like the right move, and that's the reason I made the move.
Yeah, and sort of the rest was history, really. I mean, obviously, I think was it 4 managers you play under at West Ham? Technically,
it may have been more. So it was Glenn Roeder, Trevor
Brooking,
Pardew,
Curbishley, Zola, 5. Yeah, one hand. Yeah. I forgot about Curbs. God bless Curbs. I could do with a couple of Curbs seasons at the moment. Yeah. Too much squeaky bum time for my liking. But there were 5 managers. That must have been a lot. But you played, apart from obviously Zola, where it was towards the end really before you went to Stoke. But you were a regular for every manager, really, wasn't it?
I was, to a certain extent, yeah. Especially in the first 3 years, I feel like I played my best football.
Yeah.
especially in the Championship, without a doubt. Under Roda for his first tenure, for his first few months, and Trevor Brooking for however long he was in charge, and then Pardew, excuse me, was brilliant for me. And we had a good couple of years there. And then Kovacic come in, he sees things differently, which is fine. It happens in football. Yeah. It's not an issue. And then Zola come in and really warmed to me at the start, which was really good. But those first few years at West Ham were really, really good and really special to me.
And those first, obviously your first season was you won Ham of the Year, wasn't it? Yeah. And what's that like? To win, obviously you've come in, you must have obviously known about the whole West Ham Tottenham thing, and then but to come in and then end up being voted, the fans' Player of the Year must be absolutely fucking amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, I still say it to this day. It's probably one of the biggest achievements I've had in my career. Really? When I looked at those names on that trophy, when I received the reward, it took me aback a little bit. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
There's some unbelievable players steeped in history, involved with the football club that were on that trophy, and to get that award was really, really humbling and something I'll never forget. To be honest with you, I'll never ever forget.
No, and to be honest, there's particularly some of your goals. People talk about the Ipswich goal in the first semi-final of the first lot of playoffs. I think there's people still talk about that goal. I was doing an interview, doing the Hammers 11 the other day, and that came up, and you forget about that goal. And I watched it again afterwards, and
I don't forget about that goal. No chance. No. It's one of them where I've said it before on other Hammers channels and websites that I'll be honest with you, it's one of them goals where I watch it back time and time again.
Yeah,
I really do, because it gives me probably my top 3 feelings in my career, the best feelings in my career. The feeling I got from scoring that goal at Upton Park in front of the Bobby Moore, in that kind of game, under the lights, early evening, and watching it back and seeing the fans react the way they did was just really, really special. I don't think I felt it at the time, but I don't realise now, I didn't realise at the time how big it was and how much it meant to me. Not just the fans, how much it meant to me as well. Yeah.
It was one of those days, people still talk about that game as, in terms of atmosphere. And even now, when you're talking to people, go, oh yeah, it was a good game. The crowd were good, but it wasn't good as that Ipswich game. And they still talk about that Ipswich game even now about that atmosphere. What's it like going through the playoffs, being a player, because obviously from a fan it's fucking nerve wracking, but from a football, it's like knowing what is at stake. It must be terrifying, really.
It is, yeah, it is. And we had the owners come into us and come to the training grounds that week, and then you realise how big it is. But you got to embrace it. You've got to get on with it and step up, and that's what I felt like we did. Obviously, we lost in the final against Crystal Palace, but the next year we went up.
Yeah.
But those games are what make you as a player, make you or break you, so to speak. So that night, even though we got beat in the final, I still won't forget. And obviously, moving forward, we went up the next year, but they are nerve-wracking games, very nerve-wracking games. I wouldn't want to go through them many times as a player, because you know what's at stake.
Yeah.
And you know what's at stake for the football club ultimately, and that's what matters more than anything, fans in the football club.
And that's what I mean. It's like for you got to think, obviously, around the football club, you've got the tea lady, you've got Betty the tea lady, you've got Eddie the kit mat, you've got all these guys, and you're thinking, if we don't do the first, particularly the second time, the first time I think it was all new. Obviously, I still have nightmares of that game, because I can just close my eyes and see a wall of yellow shirts jumping, singing "Glad All Over." We were just talking about it just now with the guys beforehand. I still refuse to play that. If I ever DJ at a wedding and someone asks for that as a request, I still don't play "Glad All Over" because it still bites me. But yeah, then there's obviously the relief, and obviously your cross for Bobby in the second final. scored the goal.
Yeah,
And
I know, and that was. It felt like huge redemption, to be honest. Like that, the relief from that game, I can't tell you how happy we were. Can you imagine if we'd have got beaten that game or not gone, not gone up?
No.
I dread to think where West Ham would have been, because at that time the club was struggling financially. It wasn't a bad place, so it was a big game, and Bobby done the business. And on the day, I felt like we were the better team. I felt like we were the better team against Crystal Palace, but it's all about goals, and they're always tight games. You've seen it this year under lockdown. They're tight games. Yeah. They're really tight games in playoff finals. So that's just the way it is. But you've got to really stick with it and get on with it, really. And it's very, very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's just, I think nerve-wracking for you, nerve-wracking for the other.
Of course, it's probably more nerve-wracking for the fans than it is for us, but it's still nerve-wracking, trust me.
It's horrible. Yeah, it must be horrible. Yeah. It's more pressure for you, isn't it? It's nerve-wracking for us as a fan, but for you, knowing that you've got 40,000 people there, plus everyone else back at the club, it must be awful. But, I mean, the relief, as you said, it goes through, and, did you all celebrate in Cardiff that night, or did you have to all?
No, we went back to London. Went back to London and celebrated there. But we had a young squad, and I've said this before, that helped us, because went into the Premier League season after that, and we were young, we were fresh, we had to prove, and we did that. Fair, that first season in the Premier League, we were outstanding with the young players. We had unproven players in the Premier League. I had a point to prove. A lot of other players did as well. And we did that in that first season in the Premier League. I thought we were outstanding and really took it to teams on the front foot. We played some good football and scored lots of goals.
Yeah, no fear. It seemed
no fear. Exactly that. Yeah, that was it in a nutshell. No fear.
And you get that, don't you, for some teams who go up. I've got a feeling it might be with Fulham this year, where it's a younger side and they're playing with no fear. Whereas, an established team, maybe that's, like a West Brom who's bounced a little bit, they still have the fear of going back down because they've already experienced that recently. So they've got that.
But Fulham have as well, DNA. To be fair. Do you know what I think the key is? I think the key is that you stick or you trust that squad that's got you to that. Yeah. And you go with it a little bit and you ride it and you add a little bit of quality. You look at Fulham the year they went up a couple of years ago, they spent 125 million. It didn't work. It kind of, the balance of the squad wasn't right, and it set the wrong tone to the rest of the squad that have got them into the Premier League. I think what Alan Pardew done well, to be fair to him, he kept that young squad he had. He had some quality, but we were young, we were hungry, and we wanted to prove ourselves in the Premier League. And I think that's a key element to surviving in the Premier League moving forward. Then after that, you got 1-2 years in the Premier League, 3 years maybe, then you got to build on that and keep going. But those first 1, 2, 3 years is really key.
It's similar to obviously Sheffield United this season, wasn't it? It was like
exactly.
And Wolves, obviously Wolves before, but Sheffield United this year. It seems you're right. The teams that don't spend a crap load of money and have a nucleus of people who have played together for a whole season or a couple of seasons, working their way up. You just had that togetherness as well, that bond.
Yeah,
and I mean, not only did we sort of do really well in the league, but obviously FA Cup final. Hello, that was just the culmination of that season. It's like, what's it like to walk out and play, be involved in an FA Cup final? I mean,
bearing in mind. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
No, go on. You carry on, man.
Bearing in mind, we've been in the Millennium Stadium 2 years before, which is crazy when you think about it. We could have been at Wembley, but the Millennium Stadium was a very nice stadium as well. But it was a boyhood dream of mine, I'll be honest, and it's very cliche, but it was. I remember watching the helicopter fly over the team bus on the way to the stadium. I remember all of that as a kid, and I always thought to myself, I want to play in an FA Cup final. And that was my first. And it was surreal. I didn't really take it all in, my first cup final, I'll be honest, because I was so nervous. And I got injured 3 weeks before. Christian Daly done me in training. I got a bad ankle injury. So for those 3 weeks leading up to the cup final, I was purely focused on getting fit for that cup final. And Alan Pardew said to me, if you're available and you tell me you're okay, you're going to play the game. So that was my sole focus. I couldn't enjoy the build-up with the press and getting the suits done and all that. My sole focus every single day was making sure I was ready for the final.
Of course.
So I loved walking out at the Benayoun Stadium. It was amazing, but I didn't really take it all in. And the first half an hour, as everyone knows, was amazing.
Yeah.
We completely dominated the game in many respects, and we're 2-0 up. And then that goal just before half time probably rocked us a little bit. But we had a team that believed, like I went back to earlier. We believed in ourselves, even though player to player, we weren't as good as Liverpool. The likes of Gerrard and Cisse and Crouch and obviously Carragher, etc. We believed in what we were doing, and that is a key aspect in football. That goal just before half time probably rocked us a little bit, and then Conch obviously gets the cross come shot goal, and it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's still hard to take. Even now, to be honest, I struggle to talk about it because winning an FA Cup would have been, or is a dream of mine, and it didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen, and obviously, it was it was the weirdest game as a fan ever because you left thinking you'd won because and then
we were good, weren't we, on the day? We were
awesome.
Really well.
And when you play to such a standard and you play, I mean, you're right. That first half hour. Off the park we played them off the park. They just didn't get out of the gates. And I think the biggest disappointment for us was thinking about it afterwards was obviously we played them in the league, didn't we? And then obviously Hayden and Garcia had a bit of a ruck. Garcia not playing for Liverpool was but Hayden was crucial really for our team. What made it tick, and I think that was a huge. We had to rejigger it. It didn't work as well, but I mean. He was a great player, but when you leave the pitch, when you leave the game, and you're walking back through Cardiff, and loads of Scousers are coming up to you, shaking your hand, and saying you should have won that. You were robbed. It's like we know we are, but it's nice of you to acknowledge that. But and we've had, we were totally robbed, but
I don't like talking about it that much. It's still thinking now. I'll be honest with you, mate. It's still thinking.
Yeah, I know. We'll just keep talking about the Ipswich goal because that was really good. Keep talking about the Ipswich goal because that was brilliant, and everyone and loads of comments of people coming in saying how much they still it was hairs at the back of their neck and everything. It was incredible. Now, obviously, and then someone made a point in the comments, Matty. Did you play under Kevin Keane as a caretaker manager?
Not as a caretaker.
No, because Kent Hammers, who's like my sort of unofficial fact checker, made a point in the comment section. He wanted to check, but I don't think he did.
No, I don't believe I did. No,
that would have been sick.
Kev was Alan Parde's assistant.
Yeah.
Alongside Peter Grant.
Yeah, and then Curbs took over after that. So yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't believe.
No, Kent Hammers, you are wrong. Probably. I
might be wrong, but.
Well, I mean, you're the one who played, so
I don't believe I did, but
it was nearly 200 appearances, mate. It's quite a few. That's the most you played for any club, wasn't it? Going through, I think.
Yeah, it's not close to Stoke, to be fair. I had 5.5 years at Stoke as well, but West Ham the most appearances.
Yeah, and it's clear. I mean, obviously not just today, but obviously when we spoke, when I've heard you on other shows. How much the club meant to you? How much how much you loved your time at West Ham, obviously playing and stuff. And
without a doubt, I've said it a lot. I've been retired now, nearly 6 years. 6 years in October.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with the club, everything that it represents, and it helped me out definitely because at that time when I left Spurs, I was trying to find my way in the game, even though I was a decent enough player, but it gave me my grounding, it gave me my home, and just the people in and around the training grounds, the fans, the way they are, how honest they are. Because I'm the same. I'll be honest with you, mate. I'm an honest person, and if I don't agree with something or I've got something to say, I'll say it, and that's exactly the West Ham the way the West Ham fans are, and I can relate to that, and I like that. But they're ridiculously loyal, and again, that's me in a nutshell, and that's why I love West Ham.
Yeah. And I think as a winger, particularly, and also as as fullbacks as well, you have a special bond with the chicken run, and just because you're closer to than anyone else. So, and I think that's it when I'm introduce you. I think your position that when you could just literally knock it past the fullback, beat the man, and cross it in or bring it in yourself. That's a sort of a lost art, I think, in the game now. I think I really think that old wing play is a bit old. It's all about cutting inside, and I don't like that now.
It is, mate. It is. It's a dying breed. And I'm coaching now. I've been coaching my 3rd season, and there's not that many players that do that anymore. No. But that's just the way the game's going. And I think as a coach or as a fan, you've got to adapt to that. Yeah. I was a dying breed, 100%. That was my game. I'd work for my team defensively and help my fullback out. But also I'd like to try and get on the outside of my fullback and try and beat him or go inside when it happens or get movement off him or whatever, and give him a problem. But nowadays it's a lot more tactical. I think that's the way the game's gone.
Yeah, it is. But it can be such a simple game. It's like if you had like... and I just think, I don't know, I've
always said it, mate. I've always said it. Simplicity is genius. Yeah. And it is. But my kind of player and out wingers are definitely a dying breed. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Speaking of players, let's do your Hammers 11. So, everyone we've had...
By the way, this is really hard.
It is really hard. But everyone we've had on the team, everyone had on the channel, we've had 160 odd guests in... We've been around for like 4 months, so it's got a bit mental. And everyone we've had has picked an 11, bar Mr. Redknapp, Mr. H. Redknapp, and Ian Bishop. They didn't pick an 11, but everyone else has. And so with the players, we like to pick an 11 of the best players you played with during your time at West Ham. So, you had 6 years, so you had a lot of ins and outs as well, and a lot of young players and old veterans. It'd be quite interesting to go through it. Kent Hammers admits he might be wrong about
really?
Kevin Keane. Apparently, sorry, it was caretaker at West Brom away, if memory serves. We lost 3-2 to I think it was before Franco took over, but I'm probably wrong.
Okay, maybe he's right.
Maybe he's right.
Maybe.
Don't make him.
No, he might be right. He might be right for that one game.
He beat
I can't remember that. I'm sorry.
He beat me at a West Ham quiz the other day, and I was gutted. But he is like Mr. West Ham.
He's probably right then, mate.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But if it was one game, it's like you hit 200. Not being funny, it's like 0.5% of your I've done the maths. 0.5% of your West Ham career. Right. Okay. So it's tricky. It is tricky doing your 11, but it's all a laugh, and and you can say notable mentions if there's people you thought.
I've got notable mentions. All
right, let's start off in goal then, Matty. Who we got in goal for you?
Okay. So I've gone for Rob Green.
Greeno,
yeah. Just a very, very steady Eddie. A strange bloke. Don't get me wrong.
So I've heard, yeah.
Very different, but obviously got his England caps and play for England, but would very, very rarely make a mistake. And I think that's what you want from the goalkeepers, is not to make mistakes. Obviously, we had Xhaka, Jimmy Walker, who for 6 months was very, very good, fantastic, and a brilliant bloke as well, by the way. And Roy Carroll. But for me, an overall keeper, you go on mistakes and etc. and longevity. Rob Green would be the one for me.
Yeah. And by all accounts, an interesting character, very different.
Yeah, that's to put it lightly. Yeah,
very different. But although I love his haircut, his lockdown haircut, he looks like sort of Sheamus from WWE.
A nice bloke at the same time. He's different, but he's a nice bloke. He's a nice bloke. Yeah.
All right. Okay. We're going to play a 4-4-2 or
no? We're going 4-3-3. We're going 1 and 2 in midfield. So it's Holder and 2 in front and the 3 up front.
You can tell you're a coach now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's go left. Let's go left back then.
Left back, it's only one person for me is Paul Konchesky.
Yeah.
I had my best time with him as a player. We weren't even really talking about it beforehand or after. Obviously, we work on it in training, but we knew what each other wanted from our games. And Conch was a very good fullback. For me, we spoke about earlier, and the way I played, I want to go outside of people and take them on and be positive. For me, when I had fullbacks and they were trying to overlap me and congest me in 2v2, it used to drive me mad, thinking, leave me alone, let me leave him 1v1 and I'll do my stuff. And Conch wouldn't do that. He'd know the right time to do it and the right time to not. So that's why Conch is the left back.
Yeah, and obviously that's sort of your partner in crime. It's critical, isn't it, for your success?
Yeah, it really is.
All right, let's go right back then. Let's go the other side. Who've got the other side, Matty?
We've gone Lucas Neal.
Oh, Lucas Neal.
Yeah.
Good player.
Very good player and an even better captain. That season we stayed up under Adam Kirbishley. He was the keys for me. Knew how to manage people, knew how to manage personalities, and a very good player at the same time. He was the right person at that right time to, obviously alongside Curbs and that, you got to give them credit, but Lucas was integral to that. He really was. I can't emphasise that enough. And a very good footballer and a good bloke. So Lucas Neal for me at right back.
Yeah, no, we've had other players of your era, and they've spoken, like Anton, and they've spoken about him as a man. And to be honest, stuff that and that's what I love about this type of show is like little stories. And Anton tells the story of when Lucas called a team meeting and basically shut Curbs and Mervyn Day out.
We went out for lunch and just had a chat with each other. Obviously these things happen still now, but just at the right time, the right place. He'd pull individuals at the right time in the right place. We speak to them. He was a natural leader without doubt.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, Lucas Neal's in. Centre backs. Who's your first centre back then?
Danny Gabardon.
Oh, Gabs.
Yeah.
Good old Gabs. Have you been watching his Instagram? He's been doing his DJ sets from his loft.
Yes, I have. Yeah, Gabs. Obviously, through James Collins, I still speak to Gabs now and again. And when he first joined, obviously he had his injury problems with his back, like I did. But Gabs was a Rolls Royce of a centre half. I just wish he'd had more longevity in his career. But at that time, at West Ham, I thought he was outstanding. I really did. Thought he read the game brilliantly. He was quick. He was strong in the air. He could read things. He could bounce in front and nick things off attackers. A very, very good player. So Gab would definitely be my centre half.
Sure. And who's he going to partner then?
So this is where I had a little bit of conflict, because obviously James Collins is one of my best mates and still speaking to him all the time, and I'm seeing him tomorrow, so he'll probably get the ump. But I had to go purely because of their relationship, Danny Gabardon and Anton Ferdinand together.
Yeah.
I thought at that time, obviously it was probably an 18-month, 2-year period, but they complemented each other brilliantly. So therefore, that's why I'm going with them too. And Anton had a lot of ability. Anton, again, to Gabs, they were very similar in the way they played. Very good aerially. Anton could play on the floor, and he was quick enough and he was strong enough. So that little duel that they had at that time was brilliant for West Ham.
He did, yeah. And it was always, in that period, it always seemed that it was Anton plus Gabs or Ginge, wasn't it, really? Yeah. And obviously Ginge came back and was incredible.
Evolved, didn't he, as a player? But I think at that time during my career, those two were probably the best. In hindsight, the best thing Ginge did was go to Villa, because he seemed to be under Richard Dunn. He came back back as what I call a West Ham player. He had a skinhead, he had a beard, and he was a different player, and he was. Yeah.
And he won't be too happy. I won't.
I
won't. Yeah, exactly. I won't mention it to him, but he can come on and not put you in his team, so that's fine.
Exactly. He won't do though. He won't put me in. No chance. No chance. But it's all good. Yeah, we're all friends.
You playing golf tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow?
No, I'm working tomorrow. We play golf on Wednesday, so it'll remind me then.
That's the one thing I've noticed more. I always thought that footballers play golf, whatever. But you all fucking do. It's like it's funny.
Yeah. It's a release. That's all I can say.
Absolutely brilliant. Right, okay. Let's go into midfield then. Let's go with left midfield. Who are we going to put in left midfield, Matty Etherington?
So left of 3 in midfield.
Yes, you have 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you'd have gone with a holder first, but
okay. Go holder. Go on. You're the coach.
Holder.
Go for the holder. Yeah.
Right. It's a no-brainer. It's Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
Still to this day, even though I was privileged enough to play for him for 6 months, I think it was. He left in January when I joined, and I roomed with him for those 6 months. Still one of the best footballers ever played football. He just ridiculous. So underrated for me. Still in this country, and such an underrated footballer. And I'll go back to it earlier. Simplicity is genius. He did the right things at the right time. He never lost the ball. If he was to play forward, he'd play forward. If he was to keep the ball for his team, he'd keep the ball for his team. And just such a gifted player. Yeah. Such a brilliant football brain. And obviously then he went on to Spurs, but it was a privilege to play with him for those 6 months. It really was.
He always just seemed to have time. Do you know what I mean? There's
exactly.
Good play. I mean, people in
the best players do. The best players do.
I mean, people in sort of the more experienced fans, I call them, not the old farts, but the experienced fans. They obviously had Trevor Brooking, and he famously wasn't very quick, but always had time on the ball. And Carrick just seemed to be the same. Every team he's left. So when he left West Ham, we never really replaced him. When he went to Tottenham, Tottenham went to Man United, they never replaced him, and then Man United never replaced him. He's one of those players.
In a nutshell, to be honest, exactly that. And obviously he's very decorated. He's won a huge amount of trophies, but I still don't think he's appreciated as much as he should be. Absolutely footballer, very good footballer. I think he doesn't score goals and he doesn't, keep. But the way he ticks teams over, the way he builds play is just exceptional. Really is.
I think also, I just think it's one of those things where he came along at the same time, particularly at West Ham, where we had the golden generation, and it's like, and he's always, and everyone talks about Frank and Joe and Rio, and then it's Carrick's always like the fourth, and it's the same as like even in the 60s, it was Moore, Hurst, and Peters, and it's a shame because I just think if he came 2 years earlier or 2 years later, he would be in the.
When you talk about Joe Cole and Rio and Glenn John, he should be spoke about in the same ilk.
Totally,
100%.
Totally.
Look at the trophies he's won. Look at what he's done in his career. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Right, okay. So Carrick is in. Who is next?
He's holding. Yeah, there's two in front. This was hard. I'll be honest with you. But I've gone. For me, it's a no-brainer. Just off the left of him is Mark Noble. Nobes was just coming through as I was probably a couple of years at West Ham, but he was starting and playing regularly in the first team. But we've seen him coming through training because he was standout as an under-18, etc. And just his character and what he's done for the football club in general, and his longevity and how unique he is in a player and staying at one club. For me, he has to be in there. And again, I wouldn't say to the extent of Michael Carrick, but still an underrated footballer. I still hear on West Ham channels and West Ham fanzines that he's past it. And I look at his performances in lockdown. Everyone's got their opinions, and that's fine. But my opinion is that when he contributes well, and when he contributes what he can contribute, he's still a huge asset to the football club. Yes, his time, obviously, he's getting older now and he's not going to be there forever, but he's still a huge part of the football club, and that's why I've put him in the team. Yeah,
and you're right. I mean, he's one of these players. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I'm one of the 300 or whatever to get to the games at the moment, and watching him and it's a shame. I'd love to have recorded him or something like that. But that Chelsea game when obviously we beat Chelsea 3-2, and he wasn't playing. He was sitting in the disabled area where it's already socially distanced already, the seats. And he was watching the game like a fan, and he just thought, yeah, he is a fan. And as soon as that final whistle, I mean, he jumped over the barrier. He could have really fucked up his ankle, to be honest, but he did because he just wanted to get in the dressing room, and and he cares, and it means such a lot to people when they feel. I mean, you've played for West Ham, you know that how the fans, they respect effort and stuff like that, and I'm a massive fan of Nobes. Right, okay, Nobes is in.
Just off the right of Michael Carrick, so you got Nobes off the left, just off the right. This was hard because Scotty Parker, in the year and a half I was there, was absolutely outstanding. And obviously, what he done for the football club in keeping him up that season was, very, very inspiring. But just the longevity and how Yossi Benayoun has to be the one off the right for me. Absolutely brilliant footballer, technically outstanding. And very good person first and foremost. So him for me would be the one, but Scotty Parker, I feel bad leaving him out because he done a lot for West Ham and his performances. But Yossi was a special player,
brilliant player. Well, I'm glad. Scott could be the manager. He's done a good job.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
So you can get him all in eventually. He's still young. No, I think I'm really happy for him at Fulham because I just think he just seems to be.
He's done brilliantly.
Yeah,
it's like all of us. We're trying to make a name for ourselves in the game. He took a big punt, Scotty. To be fair to him, going straight to Fulham. Obviously, done a little bit with Spurs at the under 18 level, and I thought his interview after the playoff final, was absolutely outstanding. It's pure emotion, and I think as a fan, that's what you want to hear. You want to hear what he's been through, and you can tell what he's been through in that past year in the season. Obviously, lockdown and then going back into it afterwards. And good luck to him. Good luck to him. Yeah,
because I think too often, I mean, obviously you do a lot of media work and stuff, obviously as well. But too often, I think when managers do the whole after game, it's all very sterile and it's always but it was just you very rarely get emotion like that. I think that's why everyone enjoyed it, and that's why it became
exactly.
People put it to the streets, didn't they? They did a meme of it, and that's brilliant, and it was just right. And I just think I'm just really happy.
It's what he felt. It's what he felt at that time, and I think that's the way you've got to be. I think you've got obviously within reason, and say the right things, like with the right language when you're on air. But you've got to say what you feel at that time, and I think that gets you a long way. Yeah,
particularly he said whatever the world's happening at the moment, it's he's had to live that, and he's had to carry on doing that, and now he can go back and fair play.
It affects his family. People to see Scott Parker Fulham manager. Yeah. But you've also got to think about Scott Parker the man, Scott Parker the father, Scott Parker the husband, and everything else. So I thought it was a brilliant interview.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yoshi's in. God bless him. Big fan.
Yes,
right.
He is.
Okay, front three.
So the three up front. It's not a bad front three, to be fair. Although I probably wouldn't pick them in the actual positions, but I've gone for Defoe, Ashton, and Tevez.
Oh, right. Let's talk about Defoe first, then.
Well, Defoe again was I was talking about Michael Carrick earlier. Yeah, Carrick didn't leave in January, did he? Defoe left in January, and Carrick left the following January. Carrick
left after the Palace game.
He did. You're right.
Yeah, sorry, but it doesn't matter.
So Defoe left in January, but again, talking about Michael Carrick, similar thing to Jermain Defoe. I've still not met a better finisher.
Really?
When I was a player, it just ridiculous off both feet, the sharpness of it, just his drawback of his right or left foot. It was instant, just an unbelievable finisher, and so sharp in and around the box. His movement over 1, 2, 3, 4 yards, explosiveness was just exceptional, and you could tell obviously in the championship at the time he was too good for us at that time. and he's gone on to prove that, to be fair to him. And a good lad, to be fair. He was a very, very good lad. He just wanted to better himself. And you can't grumble with that.
No.
But a very, very good player. In training, he was exceptional. Really good.
Yeah. And I mean, when you're obviously more of an experienced player, and obviously, it was when you had a lot of young players come through. When you're watching in training, can you go, yeah, he's going to be good, or do you get a feeling of whether a player's going to make it? Particularly obviously, you probably had like a lot of the youth team players training with you as well. Yeah.
It's hard. You always get a sense of players that are going to do. They can surprise you as well.
Yeah.
It's all down to application at the end of the day. And I think you go through all these players here, especially the best ones. And I look at Michael Carrick, I look at Mark Noble, I look at Defoe. Their application every single day was spot on.
Sure.
And first and foremost, that's the thing you've got to have. It's the desire to get better every single day, no matter what walk of life you're in. And that's the thing they had, especially Defoe. Defoe was just relentless in everything he did. His finishing, he'd stay out longer, and he'd do it on his own into an empty goal and put mini goals inside the posts and just make sure he's hitting those mini goals. He was just a relentless finisher that's going to be the best he could be.
Yeah. Oh, well. All right. Defoe's in. Ashton. Then let's talk about Dino.
Yeah, Dino obviously curtailed his career was curtailed very early, which was all for him early, which was a shame. But in those, how long was it? 18 months, 2 years, and even his time at Norwich and Crewe, what he produced, especially at West Ham, especially when he first joined. He was a complete centre forward. Let's be honest. He was. He could hold the ball up. He could link play. He could score any type of goal, of course, going into the box, and he could run in behind as well. And he had a turn of pace. There's not many like that anymore, and not many like that at that time either. And that ankle injury really, really hampered him, and eventually, obviously, he had to retire. But there's not many you can say that about. Obviously, most strikers have got their, Defoe or Teddy or whoever have got their strengths that they play to. But for me, Dino, he could do most things, not everything. He was a complete centre forward. Yeah,
he was. And I mean, obviously, in that sort of FA Cup final, he scored and obviously the semi-final
beforehand as well, before the FA Cup final,
the semi-final
as well. In the semi-final, exactly. Marlon got the goal, but Dino was instrumental. Just a brilliant footballer.
Yeah, he was, and you're right. He was the complete forward. He was, I remember when he signed from Norwich, and I think it's about 7 million, something like that, which was a fair whack. I was just so excited, and I remember him coming onto the pitch. It was like an evening game. He came on, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I thought that was it. I thought it was him. It was going to be it, because he was like the final piece. We'd always not had a striker since Cottee and McAvenny or Hartson really, but it was like I thought he was going to be it. But unfortunately, injuries. Right, and then our last position, Carlitos Tevez. What can you say about Carlitos?
Exactly. Do you know what? I didn't even mention Mascherano in that midfield either, even though he didn't play games for West Ham. He was an absolute joke in training. How he didn't get into West Ham, I do not know. But that's probably a story for another day. Carlos, for those last 3 or 4 months when we stayed up, and obviously that ultimate game at Old Trafford where he scored the winner, was an exceptional talent. And heard other people talk about him since then. He went to Man City, Man United, etc., where he was a brilliant trainer, exceptional trainer, etc. When he first went to West Ham, he wasn't. This is what I saw. He struggled to adapt, and I think that's why it took him a little bit of time to get to where he got to eventually. But pure ability-wise, like Mascherano, he was exceptional. And he'd do little things in training. He wouldn't do it often enough, and he'd train poorly, but he still do it. And those 3 months where we ended up staying up, he, alongside others like Bobby Zamora, etc., and other players,
of course,
was exceptional. He was.
I mean, we touched on it very, very briefly. What was it like as a player turning up at Chadwell Heath and you've got these two Argentinian internationals in your team. What?
Strange, yeah, very strange. I remember seeing on Sky Sports News, and I can see Pards with them outside the tunnel at the bowling, with shirts and all that, and we're thinking, what's going on here? Obviously, they were still well known and Argentinian internationals, and it was a strange feeling, but you've got to embrace it as a player, haven't you? Yeah. Carlos Mascherano embraced it straight away, wanted to learn the language. Carlos was a little bit more timid and wasn't too sure, and had an interpreter with him all the way, and in training, in the changing rooms, at the canteen, and match days, etc. But he did what he did, and that's why West Ham will always think of him, really, really fondly.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and he is. He just said, and I'm surprised you didn't put yourself in, Matty. I'll be honest.
Oh no, of course not. How can I put myself in with those players there?
I'm not being funny. Yeah, but I'm not being funny. 200. You had 195. You could have got your appearances up to 196. You could have got them in. But
I'd never do that.
Matty, man, it's been absolutely lovely. I really, really appreciate your time, and obviously, spending an hour or so with us chatting about West Ham. It's absolutely brilliant, man. So thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure, no problem.
Thank you so much, Matty. It's been a pleasure. I'll let you go. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Take care, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Cheers,
see you at London Stadium. Take care. Cheers, Matty. Bye bye.